Let's talk about the Detroit Lions here for a little bit. Look, we all understand that the Lions are one of the best teams in the NFC, frankly, the entire NFL. They are in the middle of a championship window. We all understand this. We all recognize this. But to that end, the Lions have had a very interesting offseason when it comes to their quarterback, Jared Goff. Goff has come off a couple of really nice seasons for the Lions, and most people expected there to be an eventual long term deal involving Goff and the Lions. And prior to the NFL draft, there were some discussions that were occurring and going on. And there is a report highlighting, let's go and throw up the article here that I'm sure a lot of Lions fans have already seen, but not involving Goff, but involving Amon-Ra St. Brown got a big deal. Penny Sewell also got a big deal. But it looks like, according to the article here, that a deal is, quote, not imminent between Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions, which again is very interesting considering the success Jared Goff has had in Detroit. But I think the Lions and I think their general manager, Holmes, I think he's doing a really smart move here. And here's why. And we can see how this all shakes out in terms of the long term of the division, the NFC North. Last season, I think it was clear and obvious that the Lions had the best performing quarterback in that division. It was clearly Jared Goff. Justin Fields was not living up to his hype. Kirk Cousins was injured, and it's Kirk Cousins. Let's be totally honest. He's B quarterback, B plus quarterback at best. And I think we all know the situation with the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love looks like an up and comer, but he wasn't and is not at the level of Jared Goff. But now that we've gone through the postseason run and now that we've gone through an entire offseason, I think the Lions recognize that they find themselves in a very interesting position. Jordan Love got better. He put out an incredible performance against Dallas in the postseason and did a pretty solid job until the fourth quarter, very similar to Jared Goff, mind you, against the San Francisco 49ers in San Francisco. He looks like he could very well be the next thing. The Bears got the best quarterback prospect, at least on paper, since Andrew Luck and Caleb Williams, and the Minnesota Vikings got another young quarterback in J.J. McCarthy as well. If the Lions were to sign Jared Goff to a long term deal this offseason that wasn't incredibly team friendly, there is a very realistic scenario, and I know Lions fans may not want to hear this, that in 2 years, Jared Goff could be the third best quarterback in that division, behind most likely Jordan Love and Caleb Williams. I'm not saying that will happen, but that's just a reality. That's a totally honest reality that the Detroit Lions could be facing. And the Lions front office knows this. They understand this. They recognize that the worst thing they could ever possibly do is sign a quarterback to a long term deal that wasn't incredibly team friendly. If there was a chance, he could end up being the third best quarterback in their division. If you got the third best quarterback in your division, you're not going to win playoff games. You're not going to get home playoff games. You're not going to make Super Bowl runs. The Lions, under Holmes, they're clearly trying to build a team set up for sustained success. And signing Goff to a long term deal would be the antithesis of that. I think the Lions have been making a very smart move. And I think what we've seen in terms of the contract negotiations with Jared Goff, with the Detroit Lions, are exactly what the Lions should be doing. If Goff wants to agree to a short term deal or a very team friendly deal, absolutely perfect. If not, what you do with the Lions, you lock up the core, you lock up the tackle, you lock up the wide receiver, you get the best players in position around the quarterback. And if you have to move off of Jared Goff, which I don't think they will, eventually Goff will agree to a long term deal that is very team friendly. But if he doesn't, then you address the quarterback position when you have to at that time. Because again, the worst thing you can do is end up in a situation where the Packers and the Bears are actually better than you at quarterback and probably cheaper as well. So I understand Lions fans may not like to hear this, but the reality is they're doing a great job in terms of how they're handling the Jared Goff situation, especially as it gets more and more interesting as we're now past the draft and getting ready for training camp, mini camp, OTAs. Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, but first, Lions fans in the comment section below. I've talked about Jared Goff a lot over the years on our Lions videos, especially involving my opinions, and you guys have rightly called me out when I've been wrong on numerous occasions. So I want to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on Jared Goff? Do you guys think he should get a long-term deal? Do you think there's a chance that maybe the Lions should let him walk? Give me your thoughts on what the Lions should do with Jared Goff and what you think of their current approach of basically not locking him to a long-term deal and playing very, very, very hardball here. Curious what you guys have to say. But Miles, give me your thoughts on the Detroit Lions and this Jared Goff contract situation.
Yeah, Nick, I think this is a really interesting situation, like you said. I think inevitably probably gonna be more of a team friendly deal, long term contract. But I think when you hear those things, it makes sense because if you're honest with yourself, this is probably the peak Jared Goff that we saw last year. He's got a lot of weapons on the offense. Jameson Williams was good. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a very good receiver. Sam Laporta was really good. Had some great running backs as well. This and not to mention an incredible offensive line, absolutely phenomenal. There's really not a ton of upgrades to this offense that you can have. Ben Johnson, I don't think he's long for this Lions world. I think he's going to move on to a head coaching position eventually. I was surprised, quite frankly, that he didn't get picked up last season or that he chose to stay with the Lions rather. I think that there's some unfinished business, but I think in the next year or so he's going to be moving on. So I think last year, which was a great year for Jared Goff, probably his best year on record, we saw the peak Jared Goff. And per PFF, if you look at his grades, he was ranked 10th. Top 10 quarterback, but he is number 10. At the absolute highest height, he was 10th. You need to get someone who can be a top 5 guy. Those are the guys that you lock up for mega long-term deals. You want a guy that can really carry the team on his back. And when the conditions were right, you had a great offensive coordinator, fantastic offensive line, good weapons all around the receiver room, a really strong receiving tight end, and good running backs. Jared Goff gave you 10th, which is not bad. I think that's very admirable. I think it's a really great situation. I think Jared Goff is a decent quarterback, but he's not, like you said, the Patrick Mahomes. If you look at your own division, he's not a guy like Jordan Love, who in a subpar situation probably did as good as, a guy like Jared Goff, but there's a lot of room to grow on that Packers offense. You look at Caleb Williams coming in here, I think that, it's early. We haven't seen him play at all in the NFL, but, he's not a guy like a Caleb Williams. Jared Goff, not very mobile. He's been, quite frankly, pretty terrible in the mobility grades as far as his running ability per PFF. He ranks in the 30s consistently every season. This is a guy in Jared Goff who I think is good enough. Like you said, if he signs a short deal, if he signs a very team-friendly deal, that you upgrade the defense. And we see them doing that through the draft. They're upgrading the defensive side of the ball because that's where they have the most room to grow. This is the offense that you can expect to see on the field. And like you said, the rest of the division is going up. So if you want to compete, you have to get rid of your bottleneck. And unfortunately, to get to the Super Bowl, which is the goal, Jared Goff seems to be the bottleneck on that offense. Everything else is really, really good. To upgrade it any further, you'd have to replace Jared Goff or get him to sign a really team-friendly deal, a long-term, a short contract or really long-term team-friendly deal so you can upgrade your defense to get you there as well. So I think, like you said, smart move by Brad Holmes and co. to, not give in early and say, hey, here's all the money in the world. They say, hey, we know what we need, and this is exactly what they're doing with Jared Goff.
Yeah, and it's just a lesson to be learned for all really good teams that decide to give B plus quarterbacks a lot of money. It never works out. The Dallas Cowboys are a great example of this. Dak Prescott's a good quarterback. He's a B plus guy. Whether you think he's better or worse than Jared Goff, I'm not having that discussion, but they're in the same stratosphere in terms of their rankings of quarterback play. Dallas threw a whole lot of money, long term, not team friendly deal at Prescott. How did it work out for the Cowboys? How many titles do they have to show for it, right? Do you want to follow the example of a team like that? Or how about the Minnesota Vikings? They gave up an incredible amount of money for Kirk Cousins. How many titles do they have, right? You don't want to do what teams like Dallas and Minnesota did, which paid too much money at the quarterback position for good, not great quarterbacks. We see it happen all the time. The Bengals did this with Andy Dalton, and they were a good team. They're a respectable team. They made the playoffs, I think, like 5 or 6 years in a row, but they weren't getting over the hump because Andy Dalton was a B plus quarterback. Eventually, they had to blow up the team. They got their A guy in Joe Burrow, and the Bengals are now, they made a Super Bowl run a couple years ago. They look like to be a contending team once again. Nothing against Jared Goff. He's a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. We all know this, but he's not a top 5 guy. He's not an A plus guy. Jordan Love looks like he could be. Caleb Williams, with his prospect ranking, seems to be potentially a guy as well. And if you got the third best quarterback in your division, which is a very realistic scenario that could happen within the next 2 seasons, this Lions run that we've all been so excited about will end very unceremoniously. Brad Holmes is doing the smart move to prevent that. He's not going to, at least the way it sits right now, he's not going to give Jared Goff a team unfriendly deal. He's playing hardball, which is the right strategy to make. It may be tough to bear because Jared Goff, great guy, great for this city, has done a lot of wonderful things in Detroit. That's undeniable. But is he the guy to get you over the top? Until he proves he is, he's not. And you shouldn't give him the money. And the fact that Brad Holmes is not doing that right now is the right move and the smart move.
Data brokers sell your information to scammers, spammers, and anyone else who may want to target you. Your full name, email, home address, health records, even your relatives. It's all out there. That's why we use Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Aura shows us which data brokers are selling our information and automatically submits opt-out requests for us.
Cleaning up our information not only reduces the amount of that stupid spam we all get, but it also protects us from hackers who could use this information to help them access our social media accounts, bank accounts, and other sensitive information. Aura also does much more to protect us and our families from online threats. We also get features like antivirus protection, VPNs, password management, parental controls, identity theft insurance, and more without having to download several different apps. That's really key. One location, get all this great stuff. It's really easy to set up. And the best of all, we get everything at one affordable price.
And you may already have one or two of these tools already, but not having Aura is like locking the front door and leaving the back door wide open. Aura is always on doing the hard work to keep you safe so you can focus on other tasks and have peace of mind. We value our privacy and we value yours. You can go to aura.com/Saturday to start your 2-week free trial. Also, link below in the description. Again, aura.com/Saturday for your free 2-week trial.